it. Our next story: plans to close hundreds of rail ticket offices were revealed earlier this month as part of cost-cutting measures. Under these proposals, the majority of all ticket offices will close in England over 3 years. Some kiosks will remain open in larger stations. The Department for Transport has said it's about enhancing the role of station workers and getting staff out from behind ticket office screens. Transport for All, who represent 14.6 disabled people in the UK, have concerns that these changes will make the stations and their services inaccessible to disabled passengers. Sassy Wyatt is a travel accessibility consultant. Hello, Sassy.
Hiya, how are you?
I'm okay, thank you. You're blind and you're concerned about these closures. Tell me why.
Yeah, so as a completely blind person that travels continuously for work, the main reasons of the stations closing, the ticket offices, is to do with the humanization of how a disabled person actually travels autonomously and independently. We find our way to the stations, and in some regards, if you're a completely blind passenger or you've never traveled there before, they can meet you just outside the station. But essentially, when it comes to the kiosks and the travel offices being shut down, people like myself are going to be left stranded because ticket kiosks, the ticket vending machines, are not accessible. They're not accessible to people in wheelchairs. They're not accessible for people with dexterity issues or people with neurodiversity. So even though I'm speaking on my perspective as a blind person, it creates a massive dynamic against the entire disabled community of why
Could they be accessible?
Yes, they could
Presumably
be.
these machines could be adapted so that they are accessible, right?
Yes. So actually, the bizarre thing is some of them do have headphone jack spaces. So you plug your earphones in, and it means that the tickets should be announced to you. The screen should be announced. However, that is very few and far between. My local stations have them and they don't work. I've been to other stations up and down the UK. They don't work. And the biggest issue, I think, surrounding blind people using these ticket machines by themselves is actually you don't get the same support. So if you're traveling to somewhere new in the UK by yourself, then the staff might actually know the most accessible way to get you onward. However, if you're getting a ticket and you don't have a disabled rail card, not everybody is aware of this. If you have a certificate of visual impairment card and you're traveling with a companion, you can actually get 50% off your rail fares. But these things are not shown on the ticket vending machines. So even though they can be made accessible, most of the tickets that you can buy from a human being at the ticket office are not displayed on apps or even on the ticket vending machines.
The Rail Delivery Group are saying that there are apps, the likes of which the passenger assist, that are there to help. Are they right?
Yes. So the passenger assistance app is phenomenal. It is so good for disabled people to give them their autonomy back. However, they don't allow you to buy the tickets. You have to have bought your tickets beforehand. And if you are maybe one of the 23% of UK population who are disabled and don't have access to the internet, then how would you be able to book online your tickets and then book through passenger assistance? People with neurodiversity or cognitive impairments, they prefer to use cash and speak to a human one-on-one. So it all comes down to each person's individual needs, and an app might be accessible, but it doesn't mean that it's a fail-safe, because technology can fail you.
I want to go off on a tangent, Sassy. You mentioned a moment or two ago, if someone who is blind is travelling to somewhere new for them in the UK, what is the experience for someone who is blind travelling to experience somewhere new in the UK if you can't see it? And that question comes from a position of ignorance. But what do you get as a blind person from travelling to somewhere new? I get it if you're meeting people, but if it is to destinations, Help educate me, I guess. What's the point if you can't see it?
I think that's a phenomenal question, and it's a question I get asked a lot. Essentially, for me, as a blind person, I go because I want to experience the culture. I want to experience the cuisine. I want to experience things like walking tours, which then eventually gives me a mind map as I'm walking around to build up where I am. So, for example, last summer I went to Brighton and actually worked with guide dogs on a campaign to show how blind people travel. And that was one of the main features of how I travel, even though I can't see the monuments, even though I can't see the beach. But I can walk onto the beach, and my guide dog can walk onto the beach, and she can run on the pebbles, and I can put my feet in the sand.
But how
I can
is
smell
it? Look, you're articulate. Okay, you're clearly smart. So I'm not going to tiptoe around this, right? You and I are having a conversation. Are you comfortable with it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so let me just spit it all out, right? So if you go to a beach somewhere, if you travel, if you get on a train, if you travel a far distance to go to a beach for a new experience of that new beach, what is the point? Rather than going to a beach close to home, because you can't see that it's different. So the words the descriptions you could get while sitting in the sofa or sitting in your local beach as to what that beach is like. So I'm trying to understand what you get out of being at a different beach that you can't see. And I'm trying to understand, and I don't understand, and I want to, why would a blind person travel to America? That whole plane journey to a monument if you can't see it.
That is a really fantastic question. So you're completely right, because in essence, if you have zero vision like I do, I have only light perception, which means I can see the difference between night and day. However, blindness is a spectrum, and 93% of blind people can actually see something. So I used to be on that spectrum. I was born fully sighted. I was born non-disabled, able-bodied, and I lost my vision starting from the age of 14. So I've gone through a bunch of different stages. And I guess a big part of me used to believe what the terminology we'd call is ableist. And I'm not saying that you are, but I used to have internalized ableism against myself and say, well, why would I travel to somewhere when I could just sit on the sofa and I can point about it in my own imagination? For me, the major thing, even in the UK, is the people, because
Oh, absolutely. So
yeah,
that I get. You see, that I get, right?
yeah,
You know, you
yeah.
want to travel halfway across the world to experience different cultures, different people, the way different people talk, the way they behave. I understand that. I don't understand a blind person wanting to go to a different location that they can't see. Because for me, it's about seeing it.
Mm. I'm going to be really controversial and actually agree with you, because I went to New York last month. I was for work. And I went previously to New York 16 years ago as a wheelchair user. And I thought New York was absolutely magnificent. I thought it was super accessible and it ticked every box for me. And I could not wait to go back. As a blind person, I just did not get the majesty of the size of the buildings. I could tell that the sidewalks and the pavements were huge. I could tell that the portions on my plate were huge. And I could tell that Americans were extremely friendly. But the reality was, I was standing on the Empire State Building at the top, looking, quote unquote, over the edge and thinking, yeah, I don't really know why I'm here. But the reality is that shouldn't stop you from traveling. Just because you can't see it, you get to experience it. So I went with one
Oh,
of my best
totally.
friends, and
Yeah.
for her, seeing the joy on her face and her experience, I actually FaceTimed my husband. He was in the UK and he got to like look over across New York City skyline. It meant that I was there sharing it with other people. And then when I travel by myself,
That I understand.
I
Yeah.
love other people describing what they can see, because in a room full of people, you can get them to describe the same scenery, but everyone will have a completely different perspective. And that helps me not just build up a picture, but it helps me bond with people. And that's why I love to
When did
travel.
you when did you lose your sight, Sassy. Look, you didn't come on Five Live to talk about this, right? Come on Five Live to talk about ticket machines, but I'm just really interested in you. When did you lose your sight?
I lost my remaining vision in 2013. And so September this year will be 10 years of being completely blind. I started
How old were
losing
you?
vision. I was 23. And I started losing vision
Wow.
around the age of 14. I was registered blind by the age of 15, so I had a very quick, dramatic drop in sight. Going from full sight to not being able to legally drive was really grating on me because I was so looking forward to being able to drive. But I look at it
Do
now.
you know what your husband looks like?
I do, because I met him at uni when I could still see. So, as I said,
Ah.
blindness is a spectrum. So, although I was still registered as blind, I used to wear contact lenses. I could see to read the paper. I could see to like zoom in and use magnification software, and I could see faces as long as you were right in front of my face. If you're the other side of the street, I'd only recognize you by your voice. And so, in a weird way, I'd almost been learning how to be blind for 14 years before I went completely blind.
Is travel important to you then? For that experience of other people sharing with you their vision?
Travel is everything to me because it allows me to push myself out of my comfort zone. I never really wanted to be that disabled person that felt like they couldn't cross their own front door, because there was a stage when I first lost all of my vision that I was hopelessly terrified. However, I was so lucky that I had the support of clinicians, I had the support of mental health teams and my friends and family, that as well as mobility teams, that I could quite literally get back on my feet. However, the reality is I'm too stubborn, I'm too determined, and I didn't want the world to stop. I didn't want to stop seeing the beauty of this world just because I couldn't see it with two eyes anymore. And so I love to travel because I love food. I love
So do I.
yeah, I love food especially, and I love to go to a new place, meet people, not necessarily talk in their native language, but I'll always try and learn a few phrases, at least the very basics. And for me, that is why I travel. It doesn't matter if I'm in the UK or I'm in America or somewhere else. I'm experiencing something different every time I leave my house.
There's this. I need to go and not bother you, right? But there's this. As I get older, I'm just changing a lot, right? And there is this tree in Santa Monica. It's just really important to me now. When I was young, if anybody had told me that a tree would have been in any way important to me, I would have thought they'd cracked up, right? There's this beautiful, beautiful tree that I kind of visit every year. It's just majestic. And I would love to have, enough vocabulary to be able to explain to you the beauty of that tree. And maybe the next time I'm there, I'll try to record something of just what it is about that tree, and that might just stretch me as well. Of rather than just lazily saying to someone, "There's a picture, look at that," just stretching your vocabulary to describe it. And maybe I'll come back on the radio and describe that to everybody. This tree, this majestic tree. Do you think I'm cracking up? I don't know, but just the words, the power of words rather than just vision is something I haven't thought about in terms of the beauty of things, and you're making me do that. So I've enjoyed this conversation, Sassy. It's been a lot more than just talking about ticket machines. Those ticket machines are important, and they need to be accessible. Of course, they're important, but I hope you've enjoyed our chat as well.
Oh, I have. Thank you so much, and thank you for raising the topic about the ticket offices being closed, because it really does affect not just disabled people, but anyone that uses the trains.
No problem. Okay, we'll talk soon. Thank you very much. Thank you.